We're closer to the end of training camp than we are to the middle or the beginning, and the Texans rolled on another midday practice in the heat, and the hottest thing on the field from a play perspective was Stefon Diggs. We'll talk about Diggs dominating Joe Mixon, the offensive line, and something fascinating about C.J. Stroud. Let's start with it. Stefon Diggs dominated this practice. And look, it wasn't perfect. Stefon Diggs had a drop. C.J. Stroud missed him. A little bit out ahead of him, but Diggs was phenomenal, and he's a perfectionist, and you can see why he's so good. The work ethic and obviously the natural talent. They were just doing individual drills. There weren't even DBs with them, and Diggs jumped a little early on one of these plays, and he asked C.J. Stroud to run it again. So Stroud grabbed another ball, threw in the pass, and Diggs jumped the right time this time. And then in one-on-one drills, early on, he got Kamari Lassiter, and then in the second matchup, Stefon Diggs, he dropped the ball. I mean, C.J. Stroud threw a perfect pass right to him. Stefon Diggs dropped the ball. And immediately, I could tell that Diggs wanted another shot at Kamari Lassiter. He wanted another chance against the rookie, and that's what he got. The very end of one-on-ones, Stefon Diggs, Kamari Lassiter, and it was a pinpoint perfect pass, and Diggs grabbed it and spiked the football. In fact, I got video of it. Check it out. Diggs was excellent in this practice. I mean, he comes off as unguardable sometimes, and I'm not also sure that he's not number one wide receiver on this team, just from how often he gets open, how open he is when other guys are open. Remember the quote from Diggs, it's not about who's open, it's about who's more open, okay? And just the reliability that he possesses. That short out route that Stefon Diggs and C.J. Stroud connect on so many times, it's damn near unstoppable. Even Derek Stingley has issues with it from time to time. And poor Jalen Petrie, I felt bad for him. Anytime he gets matched up on Stefon Diggs, it's a full-on barbecue of Jalen Petrie from the slot. And Diggs is just getting open on a consistent basis, and he was no more open than on this play, which was a total bomb from C.J. Stroud. And I wish I had video of it. Maybe the Texans will put video out of it sometime soon, but it was easily 40-plus in the air, and C.J. Stroud just uncorked that sucker. And Stefon Diggs beat everybody. I mean, I think Stingley was on him, but Diggs was behind everybody. Boop, nice little catch, touchdown. Like a 60-yard touchdown, 50-yard touchdown. I mean, just an incredible play. He is so darn good. And obviously there's motivation to be good. He wants to be one of the best receivers of all time. He's talked about wanting to win a Super Bowl. If Stefon Diggs is awesome this year, he's going to get compensated with a gigantic, enormous, fantastic contract next offseason. So there's all the motivation in the world for Diggs to be really, really darn good. And he just has been that all the way through training camp. Nobody stops him on a consistent basis. Not Kamari Lassiter, not Derek Stingley. You know, even with the pass rush getting there sometimes, he gets open so quick. C.J. Stroud's making decisions. I mean, Diggs has been everything the Texans could have wanted. And I almost wonder if he's been a little bit more than what the Texans expected they were getting. Look, he's going to be 31 this year. Most 31-year-old wide receivers don't have big years. I think there's only been about 10 seasons of 31-year-old wide receivers having 1,000 yards or more, but more of them have showed up in the past couple of years, most notably Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins are recent players to do it, to be that age and get 1,000 yards, and that was all recently. Diggs should be another one this year. He's as advertised and maybe even better. And something that sticks out to me one time, Bobby Slowick mentioned it, that Diggs is really good with the ball in his hands, and they realized he was a good wide receiver, but getting him the ball with sort of that running start is something that they want to work on. And we saw it today. It was a quick pass over the middle. Stroud hits Diggs, and he goes to take off, and then he just kind of lets the defender go by him. It was like a cartoon. It's like he put the brakes on, defender goes by, and then he took off for another bunch of yards. Diggs dominated in practice. He's done that a handful of times from the wide receiver situation, and he is fantastic to watch in practice. I can't wait to see 7-1 in a game, and certainly in a game that counts. Well, that Colts game is right around the corner. Another addition that was fantastic in this practice, Joe Mixon. And Mixon wasn't necessarily like amazing, blow you away in this practice. He had a drop on a little angle route that he ran from C.J. Stroud that just had an untold amount of yardage in front of him that he kind of left there because he wasn't able to haul in the pass. But he made up for it a little bit later with some catches out of the backfield. But he just got a different gear than the other running backs. Watching him go through drills, watching him with the ball in his hands, he's got a different gear. And that was probably best showcased by a play where Mixon took a handoff and he started left and nothing was over there. I mean, my God, there wasn't a lane. There wasn't a crease of sunlight to come through. There was nothing. And Mixon kind of stops, takes a quick glance right, and just cuts that thing all the way back to the right sideline. And the defense were falling over themselves trying to go get to him, try to get to where Mixon was. And he turned something that very well could have been a no gain or a likely tackle for a loss. And he turned it into, I think, about a 6 or 8 yard run. And that was all because he turned, noticed that there wasn't anything to the left, and he just took off to the right. And he put the Jets on to get those 6-8 yards. And Dameon Pierce tried to do a similar thing in practice, and he wasn't able to do it. I mean, the defense caught up to him. Next thing you know, they're in the next play. Not with Joe Mixon doing that. But throughout the course of today, I'd be hard-pressed to tell you who the number 2 running back is. Pierce had a couple of nice moments. Cam Akers had a nice moment. Jawar Jordan caught the ball and just absolutely turned the Jets on and took off down the field, just huffing and puffing down the field. He had an easy 40-yard reception and got tackled, knocked out of bounds, however you want to phrase it, as far as a training camp practice goes, at about the 3 or 4 yard line. Like, the defense could not catch up to him once Jawar Jordan got going and hit that top speed. They finally got him there at the very end. But today was a murky day for who running back number 2 is going to be for the Texans team. I felt a long time it's going to be, some conglomeration of Dare Agumbawale and Cam Akers. Pierce is still very much in this. There's a handful of practices, a joint practice, and a couple of preseason games left. I mean, he's very much in the conversation for running back 2. Don't be thinking too much about Dameon Pierce not on this team. He's still in the hunt. There was a couple of nice plays from today, but none of those guys hit it like Joe Mixon does. And he is just it's another, I'll tell you, look, admittedly, I think I sound goofy when I say this, but I think it's notable. I was watching back just some of the running back drills on my phone, and I thought I had a setting wrong on the playback, that it was playing back the first part and fast forward, because Mixon goes so much faster than those guys. He might have 2 more gears than most of the guys the Texans have on this roster at running back. He's fantastic. He showcased it a couple of times in the practice, and hopefully he will showcase it a ton in the regular season. A minute here for my friends at Prize Picks, the best, easiest, and most fun way to play daily fantasy. And you're going to get a $50 bonus when you play your first 5 and use my code STOOTS, STOOTS, or you just hit the link in the description down below. Prize Picks is very simple. Just a couple of taps, you could get your entry in just 60 seconds. They've got everything from baseball to basketball to, of course, football. Football season is here. You're just predicting more or less on given stats for players like passing yards, receiving yards, rushing yards, just more or less. You put it together. They've even got the flex play where you don't even have to win all the pieces of your entry. How fantastic is that? Well, it's the best. I can't believe it took me so long to find Prize Picks. You need to find yourself that $50 bonus when you play your first 5 and use my code STOOTS, STOOTS, or use the link in the description down below. We appreciate our friends at Prize Picks. Check them out. The offensive line is whole again. Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, Kenyon Green at left guard, Juice Scruggs at center, Shaq Mason at right guard, and Titus Howard at right tackle. They are together again. That's the hopeful, expected week 1, day 1, snap 1 offensive line that the Texans are going to have, but they're bringing it along a little slow here, okay? Howard and Mason and Tunsil don't take all of the reps there along the offensive line. You still get a lot of Mason, and you still get a lot of Scruggs, you still get a lot of Green, but they're mixed and matched with a couple of other guys. But when that first unit is in, man, the confidence level that this offense has just shoots up. I mean, just having those guys in there, building a wall around C.J. Stroud, it is so rare to see any sort of pressure get through. And even then, it takes some sort of fantastic effort from one of the defenders or a blitz to get in there and get through when it's just that 5-man blocking scheme. I mean, Laramie Tunsil, he has no problems with Derek Barnett, and Barnett's been a really savvy and effective rusher throughout the course of training camp. Laramie Tunsil just dispatches him with ease. Titus Howard has his fair amount of success against Daniil Hunter. I mean, it is a fun setup to watch, but you don't always get that. And even then, that kind of leans on C.J. Stroud, and we'll talk about Stroud taking care of the offensive line here in just a moment. But David Sharp, who actually left practice with a little bit of an injury, he plays a little bit at left tackle. You get a little bit of Cam Irving in there. You get some Chris Reed. You get some of Chris Reed in there. You get some Nick Broker in there. Killian Zierer was in there for a moment as well. So they just kind of fill it in. You get a lot of Scruggs, you get a lot of Green. When that first unit's in there, man, you can just relax. You don't have to worry about the nasty defenders of the Houston Texans getting to Houston Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud. You can inhale and exhale with ease. Woo-saw. Now the run game's a whole nother story. It's not as effective on the ground as you would want. But again, second practice together. Give them some time. Let them put some cohesion together and figure some things out. And they should be taking care of business on the ground. Oh, by the way, the Texans front seven looks like it's going to be pretty nasty when it comes to stopping the run. So I'm not judging the offensive line or the rush attack too harshly just yet. Now the Rams come to town, present a problem. Maybe there's a conversation about judging the offensive line, the rushing attack, with a little bit more harshness than what we have right now. But for right now, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They've earned it, and if they lose it, we'll let you know right here on the channel. I mentioned C.J. Stroud, and one of the things that I feel like he does really well is pocket manipulation, pocket maneuverability. And it was something that I watched a lot last year because Bobby Slowick talked about one of the most important things for a rookie quarterback is how they handle messy pockets. When your footwork can't be great, when your offensive line blows some things up, when guys just can't take care of their business, how do you handle it as a quarterback? And I've said time and time again, the best to ever do it was Tom Brady. His pocket manipulation was really good. Well, Stroud, he has a lot more athleticism than Brady, so he breaks out of some pockets sometimes, and it was not always great from a decision-making standpoint with Stroud last year. So I wanted to know, I asked Bobby Slowick, hey, how's C.J. Stroud grown from last year, and what have you noticed about his handling of those messy pockets? And boy, I love the offensive coordinator's answer.
The most noticeable thing for us is it really takes very little conversation now. If there's a mistake that he could have done better, usually for us it's more moving less, right? Like he's gotten to the point where he's reacting to pockets, but then you want to move as little as you need to. So last year we were talking about that all the time. This year there's very little conversation, and when we do have to have the conversation, he already knows. A lot of it at this point is how do we become firmer? How do we make sure we're better against this pressure? How do we help the right guard? How can we be better in our drop? It's something very subtle in which direction we're going just to help the O-line. Might be a little leaky, but we can still operate. So there's a lot finer detail when we get into it, but by and large it comes up a lot less often.
When some of this stuff becomes second nature to a quarterback, man, that's when you can really start to build into the levels of good, great, consistently great quarterback play. When that's second nature to a guy, it is a tough thing for defenses to deal with. You think you got the guy taken care of, the offensive line starting to leak. Oh, next thing you know, C.J. Stroud's making a pass off platform, or C.J. Stroud's moved into the one safe part of the pocket that the offensive line has created, and he's hitting Stefon Diggs or Nico Collins or Tank Dell or Dalton Schultz or Joe Mixon or Brevin Jordan or whoever. I mean, man, it just is a really exciting piece of C.J. Stroud's game. And I encourage you to kind of take note and pay attention of that. Every now and then Stroud will break a pocket that he didn't need to and still go out there and make a play. But that efficiency goes up and the trust of the offensive line is there, and the trust from the O-line that Stroud's going to also make them right. There's some potential special stuff there for that offense with those six fellas working together like that. And of course, the tight ends, the running backs, fullback, they all get mixed in there, but it's those 6 we're focusing on right there. And we're talking about CJ Stroud and his handling of those messy pockets. What say you? What else do you want to know from training camp? The comment section is there for a reason. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and visit our friends at Prize Picks, the easiest way to play daily fantasy. Play your first $5, get $50 as the sign-up bonus when you get my promo code STOOTS, STOOTS in there, or just use the link in the description down below. It's going to autofill that code for you. And if it doesn't autofill, STOOTS is the code that you can use to play your first 5 and get 50. For my friends at Prize Picks, well, they're the best. They got everything, just more or less on predicted stats. Put your entry together and get to playing at Prize Picks, prizepicks.com, and the link in the description down below. Appreciate them sponsoring this video. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.